Hello, are you here to debate?
Yeah, man.
All right. Can I get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
Sean, 19, and he, him.
Sean, 19, he, him. Okay, Sean, what are you here to debate about today?
I want to talk about pro-choice on your board.
Okay. What about it?
I don't agree completely, and yeah. So can you just give me your little explanation,
Justification?
and then I'll try to.
Yeah, sure. I believe that all humans have like an intrinsic right to bodily autonomy, specifically in how in the aspect of how we engage with other humans, right? I don't believe somebody is allowed to utilize your bodily resources without your prior consent and ongoing consent. And I believe when it comes to abortion specifically, anybody can have an abortion at any time during the pregnancy because they should not be allowed to use, like I said, someone should be allowed to use their body. I do believe in a sentience principle. So after 24 weeks, I do think you should have to have a non-lethal abortion. But prior to that, I say go nuts.
Can you explain the difference between what do you mean by non-lethal abortion?
Yeah, so I believe in abortion to just be any medical removal of the contents of the uterus, specifically during pregnancy. So, like the products of conception. So, I think I would consider it an abortion if you are just like, you're taking the fetus out after. What's the word I'm looking for? You're taking the fetus out after it's like an induction of labor or a hysterectomy abortion. I would just count those as abortions if they're used in ways that don't kill the fetus.
Okay, gotcha. So do you believe that an abortion before 24 weeks? How about a consensual sexual intercourse occurs and the female gets pregnant, right? So that was consensual and they did not use protection. So they kind of get into that situation, right? So I feel like if those people know the risks and they do that and they get pregnant, I feel like just having an abortion would be extremely inhumane because they know the risks and
a
they
few questions that I have for you on that. A few questions I have for you on that. Why does consent to pregnancy entail a responsibility to maintain, or consent to sex? Why does consent to sex entail an obligation to maintain 9 months of pregnancy?
Because I feel like if you are having sex, you are also consenting to the possibility of getting pregnant.
Is getting pregnant the only outcome from sexual intercourse?
No, of course not. People have sex to experience pleasure, but
Okay.
I think,
So
is that what you're asking?
I'm just asking about the outcome, right? So sex has multiple outcomes. Pregnancy is just a possible outcome from sexual intercourse, correct?
That is one of the outcomes, yeah. What are the other ones?
I mean, STIs are a possible outcome. Really great feelings are possible outcomes, Pregnancy is not the only outcome, and pregnancy is not a guarantee every time, right?
Of course not.
Great. So what we're articulating here is we're saying that when it comes to sex, if you engage in that act, now you have to be responsible, or in your case means you are obligated to maintain that pregnancy for 9 months because consenting to the action of sex consented to one of sex's possible outcomes.
Okay. So whenever you have sex, let's say it's just a consensual relationship and you have sex, sure, you're not consenting to every outcome. You don't want to have an STI, obviously, but if you know the risks and you go ahead and do that, I feel like if one of those outcomes occurs, you can't really like kind of just violate let's say the fetus is a human. It
Sure,
has human
fetus,
DNA,
100%
but
of fetus is a human. Yeah.
yep. And if you have sex and you know the risks and you get pregnant, I feel like if you have an abortion and you're basically violating that fetus's human rights, the right to
Okay.
life.
Do all
If
humans have rights?
uh yes.
Like
Yeah.
like morally speaking, do all humans have rights?
Yeah. Yeah. All humans have rights.
I would disagree.
Can you explain?
Sure. Does a human who's dead have rights?
Uh let's stick to alive humans.
Well,
I'll change to
okay,
all
so we're
alive
saying
humans
all
have.
living humans have rights.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Does a human who's brain dead have rights?
Yeah, they still have rights.
What rights would a brain dead human have?
They still have the right to just exist. Like
Do they? Can
a
we
brain
pull the
dead
plug
human,
on somebody who's
they
brain
still
dead?
can.
Or let me ask you a
I
second
don't
question. Do you
believe
think
you.
it's morally justified that we can't, because we can, I don't even know why I'm asking the question of can we? We can absolutely pull the plug on a brain dead person. Do you think it's a morally unjustified act to pull the plug on a brain dead person?
As of right now, honestly, maybe because the medical technology we have right now, it doesn't look like we can bring back a lot of brain dead patients. So
Well,
yeah,
we will
I
never
do
be able
agree
to
that
bring
you
back
can.
brain death. Isn't something that medical technology is going to be able to ever reverse, right?
Okay. Well, I mean, you never know. Like in the future, it could be anything. Anything can
If
happen.
we reverse
But
brain death, you're not bringing someone back to life. You're literally creating a new life. You would be creating new brain cells, like new neurons, thus creating an entirely new being, right? You wouldn't be bringing back the person that died. You'd be making an entirely new being.
okay, I see where you're coming from. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let's just go back to then your original question. Yes, yes, I would say it would be morally justified to pull the plug.
Okay. So then there are some humans that don't have the right to life, that don't have that right.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
I
And
agree.
some living humans, right? Because brain dead humans would be alive. So there are some living humans
They
that don't
are,
have this right.
yeah.
Okay. Why do we consider brain death? What is it about brain death that we go, hey, your right to life is gone? Why specifically, like, what is the trait that changes amongst somebody when they become brain dead?
I believe I would say that it's the fact that they have already they basically stop experiencing like new experiences.
Okay.
I how do I
So
explain?
you're
Yeah,
saying it's the
like
inability to experience things in the future.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when somebody loses their ability to experience things in the future, that's when we would say that they're no longer we no longer provide them moral consideration.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Question about that. What about when somebody is what about when somebody is in a state of like for instance I'm blanking here. What the fuck? What is the thing called when you go under?
Like anesthesia.
Anesthesia. Anesthesia permanently removes your ability to experience for the time that you're not permanent, but anesthesia removes your ability to experience. It removes your sentience. So, like, what about those people? Now that they've lost the ability to engage in future experience, what do we do?
Well, there's lots of different anesthesias, but like I assume you're talking about the one that completely like immobilized, like you can't experience anything. Like I'm guessing that's the one you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's ones where you like conscious sedation, where you're like you're still
Yep,
awake, you just cannot.
like nitrous, and or like one of those. Yeah.
Okay. I would say that the fact that it is not permanent and there's going to be an end and they will be conscious again, I feel like that would be
so something that's conscious has the ability to be conscious in the future, and so therefore we should place moral consideration on this thing.
yes.
Okay. And you would even place this on something that is yet to achieve that level of sentience. So like I know I said conscious earlier, but obviously we're talking sentience here because we're talking experience. So
Yeah.
so my argument would be that like a fetus has not yet reached the level where it's capable of performing these sentient abilities. So by providing it with some level of moral consideration, it's not that we're valuing the experience itself. We're just valuing the chance that we're valuing potential for experience. And I think valuing potential just gets us into a really weird area when we're talking about whether or not we should have an abortion when there is a fetus who's not yet reached that potential versus a person who wants the abortion who has reached that potential. I feel like we should be erring on the side of the person that has reached that potential.
Okay, so you're referring to the mother, like the female.
Whoever's pregnant, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I would say that you can respect the fact that the fetus will eventually be birthed if there is no like interruptions, like an abortion or the mother gets killed or something like that. But you can respect that without taking away the mother's rights. But I can see where it would be.
I don't think
if
you can,
the mother
because would you agree that you agree that humans have a right to life, right? And you believe and you
Yes.
agree that humans have a right to their own body as well, and you believe that the right to life can be removed if somebody's infringing upon your body, right? I would assume you agree with self-defense that you can remove someone's right to life if it's justified, if they're infringing upon your body in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know how we could make the decision that we can respect the right to the body of the pregnant person while also respecting the life of the fetus, right? How do you do that?
Okay. Well, let's go to self-defense. I feel like self-defense would be like someone is trying to attack you with a knife or something and you are fearing for your life, so you, let's say, pull a registered firearm and you shoot him. You're taking away his right to life because he is trying to take away yours. But if we go back to the abortion, the mother or the female, the pregnant person, is not going to die in like the majority of cases.
If I have an instance, Sean, if somebody is being habitually raped, let's say it's a woman being raped by their husband, right? They're being habitually raped. It happens every Friday night. He gets drunk. He rapes her every Friday night. She knows he's not going to kill her. But let's say she's able to grab a knife off the end table. I wouldn't say it's absolutely justified for her to put that knife in his throat. 100%. He's not going to kill her. She knows she'll still live. It's absolutely justified for her to put that knife in his throat. We can't, when we're making hard lines.
Kill him?
Yeah, absolutely justified.
Okay.
The justification, right? Part of that is going to be like a legal thing, obviously, like, right? Like you don't actually need to justify it separate of legality because we're just talking morality here, but still, I don't think it needs to be threat of your life to justify the death of another person. It just needs to be a credible threat to your person that like would severely impact you in like, obviously that's a little subjective, but like, I think that's kind of the stance. Maybe it needs to be something that's like, above normal means. Right. And I would argue that that's pregnancy in a nutshell. I mean, the things that goes through the female body when they're pregnant is crazy. Did you know that you can get a vaginus during childbirth? Do you know what a vaginus is?
I believe that is when the skin between the vagina and the anus is ruptured or something like that.
Now it basically you create one large vaginus. Now let me ask you a question. If I showed up to you with a knife and said, I'm going to slit you from your vagina to your asshole, and you have a gun in your hand, what are you doing? Like, realistically, I'm not going to kill you, but you're going to shoot me. Like, let's just be. And I would say you're justified. I would say you're absolutely justified in shooting somebody if they were going to give you a vaginus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, fetus has a chance of giving a woman a vaginus, so justification.
Okay. So I would disagree, but I'm gonna try to explain. And
Sure.
so let's go to like your the wife is getting sexually assaulted by the husband every Friday night. So she's not gonna die, right? But it would be justified for her to kill him if
100%.
that continued happening. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think the difference would be in the pregnant person would be the pregnant person most likely consented to having sex and got pregnant. Let's use the.
Well, so you do give an exception
consenting.
for somebody who's raped, correct?
I would say that's the reasonable abortion stance. Like for like people that are pro-life, I feel like if you
But so then you
away...
acknowledge it's not about whether a human has a right to life. So we're having all these questions about right to life and all that. That's actually not the actual question here.
Well, for me personally, I would say that I wouldn't really say abortion is needed in any circumstance other than if the mother is going to die. But that's just my my stance.
But the problem is your stance is illogical right now. So it's not even about being reasonable. It's about it being logically consistent. If you're saying the reason why abortion is wrong is because of a parental obligation laid about by the person who's pregnant, then it's not about whether something has a right to life. It's about a person having an obligation. If you're saying it's about a right to life, then that's completely separate from that. It's not about what, like in that case, everyone would have an obligation because it's about this being has a right to life. So like those are two separate arguments. So I'm fine going down the route of either. It's just about which one you want to go down.
I would want to go down the I want to go down the like abortion policies, where what stage would we say like abortion would be? Let's like take the full stance where like abortion would be illegalized. So let's say
lethal abortions are legal up until 24 weeks. After 24 weeks, lethal abortions are permitted in medical cases. And then non-lethal abortions would be still permitted indefinitely. That would be my stance.
Okay. I would say that the fetuses, like how many weeks or months, it doesn't matter for me because I would believe that their life is valuable from conception whenever their DNA starts. But
okay, is the right to life a positive or a negative right?
I remember you talking about positive versus negative rights. I just don't remember what that means. Can you recap
Positive
me?
rights entail a duty. So a positive right would be something like healthcare. Like if the government says you guys have a right to healthcare, the way that the government engages in this right is by giving you healthcare. They have to actually do something. A negative right entails no duty. So in order for a negative right would be something like the right to own a gun. The government doesn't have to do anything. They just have to not take your gun away from you. Right? That would be the right. So are we saying that the right to life is something that's positive and entails a duty, or it's negative and entails no duty?
Okay. The right to life. So I would say it's positive where you don't need to do anything.
No, positive would mean you do need to provide a duty. Negative means no duty. Duty.
I think it's negative. I don't think you need to do anything to respect someone's right to life.
Okay, so if the right to life is a negative right, then we would have to justify abortions, because what we're saying here is that in the case of abortion, in the case of pregnancy, a duty is now entailed because the pregnant person has to do things. The pregnant person can't do nothing, right? Otherwise the fetus would die, right? They have to adjust their lives in a way and give the fetus something, whether that be their resources, whether that be them overeating, whatever it might be. They have to provide they're obligated to a duty, which would mean that that's an unjust obligation because we've already determined the right to life is negative. So therefore, abortion is justified because you can't force someone into an obligation for a negative right.
Okay. So that pregnant person, let's say they have that fetus and they do not want it, right? And they want to get an abortion. I think that even though the right to life is negative, I think the fact that if that person they chose to have sex, and I believe we already went over this at the very beginning, but I still believe that if you have sex, you do consent also to the possibility.
So
of
now
getting
you're saying
pregnant.
that the
And
act of having sex changes the right. It moves the right to life from a positive to a negative. Or I'm sorry, from a negative to a positive via the act of having sex.
Yeah, I think that could be changed from negative to positive.
However, in your worldview, just to show you how your worldview is illogical, you believe that when
Okay.
it comes to rape, there is still that obligation because you don't believe any abortion should be permitted. So it's not so the act of sex doesn't create an obligation because you not like what you think is most practical, but your worldview stance is that even if you are raped, you still have that obligation. And the person who got raped didn't have sex.
I would say that is just simply the rape case would be that it is preserving the life.
But that's what I'm saying. Your overall stance isn't about respecting or isn't about the obligation. It's about the simple fact that you believe humans have a right to life. But the problem with this is we've already gone through this, and you believe that not all right to life is justified, and you even believe that the right to life can be taken away if somebody is going to experience something that a pregnant person experiences, like a vaginas. So right now, both of these stances are conflicting and both of them are causing your pro-life stance to become illogical.
Wait, sorry. Can you just go back and explain why they're colliding? I didn't really catch that.
I shouldn't have said they're colliding. They're colliding with themselves. They're not colliding with each other, but they're colliding with themselves because they're not holding up to logical principles.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not quite understanding.
Okay, let's go through each because right now we have two. Hold on, I'm gonna pull up a presentation board because it'll make it easier for the. And look at one. I already have one that's called "Why is Abortion Bad?" Look at that, chat. Oh my gosh, perfect. Okay, so right now there are two ways you can take this right now, right? There are two ways you can take this. You can take this through the right to life aspect. So everything has a right to life, and specifically humans, right? Or you can take this through the parental obligation aspect, right? Those are the two stances that you've parlayed for me today, right? So it's either the right to life stance or it's the parental obligation stance. If we're talking about the right to life stance, right? We're saying that I need an arrow. It's just a line will work. We're saying that the right to life is the reason we're justifying the right to life in the abortion sense, right? Is because all humans, because I'm not just going to assume that you don't believe animals possess a right to life. But we're saying that all humans possess this right to life, right? However, you've also made the concession that the right to life can be removed, right? Can be removed in cases of defense or preservation. And one of those cases would be if it was going to make a vaginas. And you've said, yeah, it's justified to kill someone that's going to give you a vaginas. And since you have a likelihood of getting a vaginus from a pregnancy, this is just a funny reason. There are others, obviously, we can get into, but this is just the one I think is the funniest right now. So it can be removed in cases of defense and preservation, and I would argue that abortion is removing it in the case of defense and preservation. And you've agreed to this because, like I said, you said that like you would kill someone that tried to give you a vaginus. Now, if we go the parental obligation route, that's why that one, the right to life one, is pushing up against itself. Now, if we go to the parental obligation route, right? So we're saying that because you have sex, right, that equals consent to the pregnancy. So you are, let me change it differently. Sex equals or entails an obligation to care for the fetus. So because you have sex, it's entailing some level of obligation that you have to that fetus. However, you have stated, and obviously this is like what you believe. I'm not talking about what you think is like morally, or not even more, what you think is like practical. But you think that even if someone is raped, right, they still have that obligation. However, the person who was raped did not have willing sex. They did not have sex at all. They were raped, right? So the thing that you say creates the obligation didn't happen here, but you think the obligation should still exist. Now, you can say that obligation should still exist because of the human's right to life, in which case we're just going to do a full circle here, right? We're going to say, let me pull up a circular arrow real quick to just illustrate my point real quick. I think that will be the best thing. You're going to say, or you could say, you might not say it right now, but you're going to say, all humans possess a right to life, unless we're looking at cases. And then I'm going to say, well, we can remove that right to life in specific cases. And then you're going to say, yeah, but even if you remove the right to life, you still have an obligation to that pregnancy. And I'm going, well, unless you were raped, in this case, you don't have an obligation. But you're going to say, well, no, you still have that obligation because of that right to life. And then we are just going through we're just in it. We're in that circle, like instantly in that point, right? Everything is going to loop back because those stances are logically inconsistent.
Okay, so so you're basically saying I could go down the right to life or parental obligation path, right?
Yeah, but trying to do both just leads us into a weird circular position every time that you're pushed on like the logic of one of them.
Okay, I would argue that I'm only on the right to life part, and let me try to explain that.
Okay.
So I would say that can be removed in case of defense or preservation. I would say that doesn't apply to rape. And
well, it doesn't apply.
Well,
it doesn't apply to pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying in the cases of all pregnancy, that would be a justifiable case of defense or preservation.
Okay, wait. So let me try to explain like the vaginus thing, right? I would say that when you have sex and you get pregnant, the chances of having the vaginus happen is like comes along with pregnancy. Like when you're pregnant, you could have that happen. And the fact that I would kill someone if they tried to forcefully give me a vaginus, right? I don't think that can be looped around.
If you're going percentages, I got to inform you. According to the Cleveland Clinic, 90% of women who give birth will have some tearing during a vaginal delivery, and 80. If we're looking at like tears, it's going to be mostly second-degree tears. 5% will experience a third or fourth degree tear. But if we're just saying chances, this puts us into a different ball game, right? If we're saying it's about percentages, if it's about the chances you have, my question to you becomes, okay, let's say somebody has a gun and that gun has 10 bullets in its chamber, or that gun has a 10 bullet chamber, but there's only a bullet in one of those chambers. So you only have a 10% chance of death, but you also have a gun. That person is going to click their gun at you. You only have a 10% chance of death. Are you justified in shooting them first?
Like if I don't quite explain.
They're going to shoot you. You have a 10% chance of getting shot. Are you now justified in shooting them first? I would say yes. What would you say?
Sorry about that. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. If somebody's shooting you with a gun that has 10 chambers and 1 bullet, and you only have a 10% chance of death, right? You only have a 10, and they show you. They're like, look, there's only a 10% chance that you're going to die here. But where I'm going to shoot you. Right? They got a revolver, they spin the chamber, you only have a 10% chance of death. Are you justified in shooting them?
They're doing this in the intention to kill me, right? Like, because they want me to die.
Maybe. They're just shooting you.
What if, I have a gun.
Like, maybe they don't. Maybe they're like, they don't really care whether you live or die. They're just pulling the trigger. We could even take their, like, they don't give 2 shits if you live or die. It's like that scene in No Country for Old Men where he flips the coin. He doesn't actually care what happens to the person behind the counter, but whatever the coin lands on is what he's going to do.
Okay. So I would say, yeah, in that hypothetical situation, if I have a gun that's fully loaded, I would probably shoot him, because I wouldn't. If he's trying to kill me, I would shoot him. But
so then
I don't think that can be applied to.
Why couldn't it? I mean, it's the percentage chance here, right? You're saying a 10% chance is low enough that you can take a human life, but a chance that low is not low enough for like a pregnant person.
Well, whenever I said chance, I wasn't trying to bring in like the chance that they actually do have that. I was saying that, like, yes, it could happen. Like, let's say that it did happen. I would still say that, like, let's say the chance of a vaginas was 100%. Okay. I would still say that no, you shouldn't be able to get an abortion because of the side effects of having being pregnant.
Why?
And
what's the justification for that?
Just because the fact, like, okay, let me just say that, like, the right to life, the fetus has the right to life. I've already explained that, right? I believe they have the right to life since conception, and I feel like the fact that, let's say we go to a if we just ignore the rape part of this right now, and we go to like a consenting couple and they have sex.
Well, we can't go to a consenting couple because the consenting couple talks about parental obligation, not about a right to life. So we can't actually do consenting couple. So if you're doing right to life, whether the parents have sex or not has nothing to do with that fetus having right to life. I could take a fetus and stuff it into somebody's uterus. Like if I had the ability to just take a fetus and put something there, that fetus would still have a right to life. And you would still make the claim that they possess a right to life. So that you can't use both right to life or parental obligation because, like I said, those two are conflicting ideals.
Okay, so let me try to justify it then. So let's say it's just a pregnant person, and we don't know how it is. Let's say it's rape. Okay, I would say that even though it's rape, that would just be the right to life of the fetus, not an obligation. Just the fact that
I know, but that's why I'm saying you can't use both because they're conflicting. So when you're saying that there's an obligation because of sex, you have to admit that when someone doesn't have sex, they have to be able to have an abortion because they did not create any obligation. They were forced into that obligation unconsensually, right? But then you're saying, yeah, but it's still a right to life, which means the obligation never mattered in the first place. What only mattered was the right to life. The obligation never actually mattered.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I would just say it's straight about the right to life.
And yeah. So now, if it's about the right to life, and we agree that it's a justified reason to take a right to somebody's right to life away, if it's in the case of defense or preservation, you now have to tell me how pregnancy, somebody who is doing it because of preservation in that sense, would not be justified. Especially when you yourself admit you would take a life to prevent yourself from getting a vaginas.
I would say that the right to life of the fetus would be more important than the physical effects of being pregnant.
Why do you get to protect yourself from getting a vaginas, but a woman can't protect herself from getting a vaginas?
Because me trying to kill someone that is forcefully giving me a vaginas would not be the same as the effects of just being like in that state of pregnancy. I would say.
What's the symmetry break?
The fact that there is intent.
Okay, let's say I'm sleepwalking and I'm trying to give you a vaginas while I sleepwalk. Are you justified killing me now? I would still say
No.
yes. No, I would still say yes, 100%.
Okay. Why?
Because it's still about that preservation aspect there, dude. I think even if you're sleepwalking, right? If somebody's sleepwalking, you still are at risk. Even if they don't have any intent to harm you, you're still at risk. And it's not about them, it's about preserving yourself. And I think you're able to preserve yourself even if somebody does not have the intent to harm you.
I would just disagree. Honestly, I'm not sure if this
On what
like
would the argument be?
It's just
What would the argument be for the disagreement?
like, let's say the no intent is just like you're sleepwalking and someone's trying to give you like a vaginas while they're sleepwalking. I would say that it's not justified to kill them based on like they aren't in control. I would assume they're just sleeping.
Yeah, you're just restating the question. I know that they're not in control. I'm asking, why does them not being in control remove my justification for preserving and defending myself?
Well, it's kind of I would let me try to explain the fact why I would say that it isn't justified for the pregnant person, because trying to protect yourself would be you're basically getting an abortion, right? And that would be the protection, like the killing the person trying to give you vaginas, like
It would be
the
a form. It would be, well, in this case, it's just a form of preservation. We're using like bodily harm as preservation, but I believe like you can also try to preserve your life like financially and things like that. But yeah, we're using bodily harm as that form of preservation.
Right. Okay. So I would say that the difference would be that the pregnant person would be terminating another life that isn't responsible for their physical harm.
Correct. I would argue the sleepwalking person is also not the sleepwalking person himself is also not responsible, right?
Yeah, and that's why I would say you wouldn't kill that person.
Okay, so because they're not okay, but now I feel like you're still just restating the question, right? You're saying, well, they're not responsible for this action, which would essentially just means like they're not like cognizantly doing it, which is just what the example is. So I feel like that's still just a restatement.
And that's why what was your question? Let me just answer it.
My question is, why does somebody being why is it that if somebody is not in control of their actions, why does that stop our ability for self-preservation? So like, I would say the same thing as if somebody is like forcing somebody to shoot me. Like, I'm sorry, if I'm gonna die if you shoot me, I'm taking you out first. You know what I mean?
Okay. I feel like I just can't really explain why, like okay. Yeah, no. It's really difficult just because the fact that like the pregnancy is such like it's such a like a fragile kind of like concept where like
you would argue that the pregnancy
difficult.
is like a special circumstance. So it's hard to
Yeah.
So you would be like sort of pleading that the pregnancy is this special circumstance that like we have to make special rules for.
I honestly, yes.
Okay, well then I would say you're just special pleading, and therefore your argument is not logical.
Well, I feel like a fetus, I feel terminating that fetus would be a lot more different than terminating someone that's trying to kill you.
What's different? Both of them result in you killing something.
well, even without the intent, I feel like, well, I've already explained that, like, why I would still not kill someone if there's no intent, but like, I feel like we're going in circles. Oh wait, I can't. I don't. How do we progress this conversation?
Well, if we're going in circles, that's because your stance is circular, right? Because we're not arguing about my arguments or my claims right now. We're arguing yours. So if we're going in circles, it's because you've walked yourself into a circle, into an illogical stance.
I feel like I feel like just at the end of the day, I feel like comparing like hypothetical scenarios to pregnancy, it's
how else do you test somebody's logic without hypotheticals?
Well, I'm not saying like hypotheticals, but I feel like a lot of the hypotheticals were just very obscure.
Sure, but can you point out why they would not be analogous to a pregnancy?
Honestly, no. I feel like you kind of just won this debate. My whole thing is just like, I would just preserve the right to life, and I feel like.
Yeah. So again, it's not about any sort of obligation. Let me ask you a quick question, and then I'll let you go because we're been over 40 minutes. Why do you believe humans have a right to life?
That's a hard question to answer. I just think that if you are a human and you have DNA and you're a human species, I feel like you just have the right to life. Like I don't know.
Yeah, like sure.
Why?
That's just restating my question again. But if you don't know why, if you're saying humans just have a right to life because, then like I would just say that makes it hard to justify any claims that you're going to make, because you can't even tell me why humans have a right to life. You just say because they do.
Okay. Wait, why do you think they have the right to life?
I don't think humans have a right to life. I think sentient beings have a right to life, because sentience entails a level of personal experience. And I think that removing that personal experience, that subjective experience, is harmful.
Okay. I would take that, like that, your definition, and to make it mine, I would just say that, yes, they have, like, that also would be, like, why they have the right to life, but I would say that future, sentience and experience would be also, like, they would still have the right to life.
Well, then you're just arguing from potential. Like potential. So potential can go back as far as we want now. I could say sperm has the potential to a right to life, or a potential to future sentient experience, and now sperm gets a right to life.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe that would be like. I feel like that's just going a little too far back.
No, well,
if there's
yes, because
nothing
potential.
To that sperm.
Yes, just like if nothing happens to that fetus, it won't progress any further. Sperm and fetus are the same in this regard. When provided with the proper resources and the proper environment, both will eventually have a sentient experience.
Well,
both change in the course of this, right? A sperm fuses with an egg, it becomes a zygote, it changes shape and form. The fetus goes from being a zygote to being in a fetus. Like, both change shape and form throughout this. Like, that's both, if both of them were taken out of their environment and put in a petri dish and frozen in a freezer, both would just sit there and nothing would change. This is the problem with arguing from potential. You can take potential as far back as you want to. Technically, if two people are in love, there is the potential for future human sentience. You can take that back as far as you want.
Okay.
This is why let me try.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, before we go, let me just try to explain, like, the sperm versus the fetus thing. Mm-hmm. I think the sperm, if you just take that sperm on its own as like a singular cell, the sperm can't evolve into anything else until like intercourse and it meets the egg. But a fetus, that's after the
No, a
That's
fertilized
like
a
the
fer-
cycle.
when a sperm and egg meet, they become one cell. They're not two cells. They fuse
Yeah,
together and they
yeah,
become
yeah.
one cell. So if you take that one cell, if you take that fertilized egg, that zygote, what you would consider a human being, and you took it out and on its own, it would still never develop. It would never, like you just described the exact same thing. The potential doesn't change between these two beings.
I would just disagree. I feel like they're different. The potential would be different because
you just have an intuitive feeling that they're different, and I would agree that sperm and eggs are different, right? But based on this criteria of potential, they're absolutely not.
okay. Well, we can just agree to disagree. It's gone on for a little bit. Your chat's getting a little bit bored, so it's just yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for the respectful debate.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Thank you guys for watching, and shout out to my YouTube members. Their names appear on the side. Membership starts at $2.99 and gets you access to early videos, uncensored videos, and members-only content. Also shout out to Tier 4 member Yemye. Tier 4 members get to help choose debate topics, and their contributions go a long way to helping me create higher quality content for all of you. Remember to subscribe for your daily dose of leftist debates, and I'll see you in the next video.